You ever have one of those days where you realize your peaceful little neighborhood isn't all that peaceful, and that your biggest headache isn't the mortgage or yard work, but the woman two houses down with a clipboard and too much time on her hands? Yeah, this story's about that kind of day. My name's Sam Delaney. I'm a systems analyst working remotely, which means I've got a front row seat to every HOA tantrum, mailbox scandal, and overly enthusiastic lawn inspection in the neighborhood of Crestwood Springs, just outside Santa Fe. 3 years ago, my wife and I bought a small ranch-style home there. Nothing fancy, just a cozy place to call our own. We thought we found our forever home. Clean sidewalks, decent folks, birds chirping. We were dead wrong. My wife, Jenna, had just returned home from an 8-month deployment aboard the USS Roosevelt. She's a lieutenant colonel in the Navy, but more than that, she's the calm in my chaos. The woman who somehow made sleeping on a cot in the middle of the Gulf feel safer than living next to a tyrannical HOA president named Brenda Godwin. Brenda, now there's a name that deserves its own warning label. She was 58, always dressed like she was running for Congress, hair tighter than a bank vault, and somehow always carried a folder filled with what she called compliance logs. If that doesn't chill your spine, wait till I tell you what she did the night Jenna came home. I spent the morning cleaning the house top to bottom, got Jenna's favorite sunflowers, cooked her favorite chicken pot pie, even painted a small wooden sign that read, "Welcome home, Lieutenant Colonel." It wasn't flashy, white background, navy blue letters, but it was honest. Honest turned out to be Brenda's least favorite color. By noon, the sign was hanging proud on our porch, and I was trimming the hedges out front, trying to make everything perfect. Across the street, our neighbor Margie waved and said she'd bring over a peach cobbler later. It felt like one of those Hallmark moments, you know? Until Brenda showed up. She didn't wave, didn't even blink. She stood on the sidewalk like some kind of code enforcement sniper, pulled out her phone and started snapping photos of the sign like I was harboring fugitives under it. Then, God help me, she pulled a tape measure out of her handbag and started measuring the distance from the sign to the curb. No words, just measuring, muttering, and scribbling into her little folder. That was my first real warning. Jenna's flight landed around 7. She stepped out of the car in her dusty camo pants, duffel on her shoulder, eyes tired but alert like she hadn't slept in days. When she saw that sign, she stopped mid-step. She asked, "You made this?" Voice soft, like it hurt to believe. I nodded. She kissed me right there in the driveway. For a minute, everything felt right. But right doesn't last long when Brenda's nearby. That night, around 11 p.m., our Ring doorbell camera caught Brenda sneaking onto our front walkway. Bathrobe, slippers, flashlight in hand, like a geriatric ghostbuster. She was measuring the sign again, whispering to herself, flipping pages in that cursed compliance log. Next morning, sure enough, there it was. Violation email. Subject, Section 14.3. Unpermitted temporary signage. A $50 fine. I told Jenna, expecting a meltdown. Instead, she just looked at the footage with that cool military stare and said, "She's planning something. Let's lay low for now." So I took the sign down, folded it neatly, tucked it into the closet. I figured, pick your battles, right? That only made it worse. The fines kept coming. $35 for having a doormat outside of HOA-approved earth tones. $60 for irregular mowing patterns. $85 because the leaves from our tree had blown onto the sidewalk. I wish I were making this up. One morning, I found myself crouched on the lawn with a ruler measuring my flower pots because apparently they were 2 inches too tall. Jenna kept saying it was harassment. I kept trying to play nice, but the worst was still to come. It was a Thursday, cool, quiet morning. Jenna was inside, unpacking her gear. I was out front, trimming the hedges again, trying to make them perfect. That's when I heard the sirens. 2 police cruisers pulled into our driveway like it was a drug bust. I dropped the trimmers, looked around, confused, and there she was, Brenda, standing just beyond the sidewalk, arms crossed, face smug like she'd won something. One officer, young guy, maybe late 20s, said they'd gotten a report of aggressive behavior involving a potential weapon. I blinked at him. These! I held up the hedge trimmers. The other officer, older, little more seasoned, gave me a once-over and looked toward Brenda. She raised her voice, dramatic as a soap opera. He was waving him around, threatening, and his wife, she looked suspicious too. And then Jenna stepped out the front door. She wasn't in uniform, just jeans and a t-shirt, but something about the way she stood, the way she moved, the officers noticed immediately. The younger one asked for ID. Jenna calmly handed her her Navy credentials. The shift was instant. "You're Lieutenant Colonel Delaney?" he asked, voice suddenly respectful. "Yes, sir," she answered, straight-backed but calm. "Just got back from deployment." The older officer nodded. "Welcome home, ma'am. I did 2 tours in Fallujah. Thank you for your service." Brenda's face drained of color like someone had flipped off her power switch, and then the older cop turned to her. "Ma'am, what specific aggressive behavior did you witness?" Brenda stammered. He had garden shears. It was threatening." "On his own property?" the officer asked. "Yes, but—" "Ma'am," the officer interrupted, "this appears to be a false police report. Consider this your formal warning. Next time, we'll be filing charges." Brenda tried to argue, shouted something about discrimination and neighborhood safety, but by then, neighbors had come outside, phones recording, eyes watching. The queen of compliance had lost her grip. You'd think that would be the end of it, but oh no. Next morning, we got served. Legal papers from a law firm downtown. Brenda, acting on behalf of the HOA, was suing us for defamation, emotional distress, the works. $15,000 in damages. Jenna didn't flinch. She read every line like she was decoding enemy transmissions. She muttered, "She's not trying to win. She's trying to bankrupt us." That night, I broke. I found Jenna sleeping on the couch, surrounded by printouts and highlighters, and I whispered, "Maybe we should sell. Sterling Development offered to buy this place a while back. Maybe we just walk away." Jenna sat up slowly, eyes steady. She said, "Sam, I didn't serve 15 years in the Navy just to come home and let bullies run us out. This is our home. We fight." That's when our neighbor Tom, retired accountant, quiet guy who always wore fishing hats, knocked on our door with a folder full of receipts. "Got something you'll want to see," he said. Laying out financials, screenshots, and phone logs. Turns out, Brenda had been billing the HOA thousands for landscaping services to a company called Godwin Property Solutions, registered at her home address. No employees, no equipment, no work ever done. Jenna, Tom, and I started connecting the dots. Residents who got HOA violations also got quick sale offers from Sterling Development. Brenda would ratchet up the pressure, Sterling would swoop in with cash, and Brenda would get a kickback through her fake business. We found emails, real ones. Brenda had been communicating with Sterling about problem homes and how to apply financial pressure. It wasn't just us. It was half the block. So we called a meeting. Tom got a dozen neighbors into his basement, people who'd been fined for garden gnomes wind chimes, chalk drawings on sidewalks. Jenna laid out the evidence like a military briefing: harassment, fraud, conspiracy. Then came the night of reckoning. Emergency HOA meeting. Every seat in the community hall packed. Brenda came in like she owned the place, clutching a folder, smiling that snake smile. She tried to talk first, blamed us, called us troublemakers, said the military wife card didn't excuse breaking the rules. And then Jenna stood up, calm, confident, laced every word with facts and receipts, played the 911 call, showed ring footage, flashed invoices from Brenda's fake company, even played audio of Brenda promising Sterling they'd get our property one way or